Danny from 3D Leadership Podcast with you again. I know I'm kind of late. I definitely got home late. Was able to do some errands at home. But today, I really, this has been on my heart. I actually spoke about this a while back. And if you for those who actually stay in touch with our podcast with Dennis and Bailey and such amazing people. But actually, I talked about this, and I just felt like I needed to bring it back up because there's some seasons. There's some seasons that we feel lonely, and in those seasons, I know some people can feel depressed. Get back into their old ways, feel into back to the comfortableness, right, of how the old ways used to feel, right. But um, there's this there's this verse that I remember seeing a long time ago. I mean, it was a reel, and I remember this lady was going into deep detail and just a reminder of how God is always with us, and just the journey of being a Christian is on that one that God refines your heart. And there's this verse that she came across with her and some of her some she was having a Bible study, but it's Malachi 3:3. Um, and this is what Malachi 3:3 says. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. And she stopped there, and it's very important. At first I did not understand this, and the reason why is because I didn't know how a silversmith works, right? But she did the extra work, so I didn't have to. And I'm gonna explain it to you. And I just think also we need to put into detail that God, God is literally saying his whole nature right here in this verse, right? Like, I mean, there's more, but he's describing his nature, part of his nature, as he's a refiner and purifier of silver, right? So whenever this lady goes into detail, she actually went to go visit a silversmith, did the extra work and be able to actually understand how do you purify silver in that way. And I think is so important, right? So she went that route, and not only that, but whenever she was going through the whole process, right? There's this process where the silversmith was like, he grabs the silver, right? And he's like, he says that he has to go and put the silver on the hottest part of the flame and sit there until it's purified. So if I slow down and God is describing him as that silversmith, right? I just think about it, right? He's grabbing us, right, as the silver, and he never leaves it until it's purified. So he never leaves us. So I'm like, all right, one in my head, the first thing I want to go through is like, even through our trials and tribulations, when he puts us in the hottest part of the flame, that's the trials and tribulations that we go through, the seasons that we go through, the seasons that we feel lonely, maybe the seasons that we feel attacked, and the seasons that we feel like, the enemy's after us, and we feel like there's no way to go. Maybe your whole family has been divided because you decided to go the Christian route. I mean, that's been with many cases. I know a lot of friends that um their family doesn't agree with what they do now, right? And it's sad, but at the same time, I'm like, God is so amazing that he turns everything for good, right? And he's not done until it's good. I remember some lady was telling me that he's not done until it's good. And he's not done with me, he's not done with you, anybody who's on listening, he's not done with you until it's good, right? And I think this verse describes that. So whenever she's going back to the story, whenever she's asking questions to the silversmith, I was like, all right. And then the silversmith is describing to her that he cannot leave. Like, if he leaves it a second early, or even a second late, it destroys the silver, and the silver's no good, right? Oh, she's like, well, if it's that important, how do you know? Like, how do you know when it's purified? If it's so delicate, right? And I just think even with the part that they say that is so delicate, like, God sees us that we're delicate, but he loves us so much. We're his greatest creation, right? Greatest creation, that he's not going to leave us until we're fully purified. And if most Christians who are on this and actually watching this is like, we know the journey is not perfect. We know we're sinners, and I think we acknowledge that we're sinners and that we fall. And the Bible tells us that a righteous man falls 7 times and gets back up. Like, it's not an easy journey. It's a narrow road for a reason, right? And I just think that that's so important to even point out. But she asked this one question to the silversmith that kind of touched my heart, right? She asked, well, how do you know when it's purified? And the silversmith, she says, going to her recollection, that the silversmith looked at her, right? Looked at her, he's like, that's the easiest part. He's like, I know when it's purified when I can see my own image through it. And that touches my heart. The reason why is that I 100% believe like this is the way God sees everything. Just even going back to the verse or not even the verse, the saying where it's like God is not finished, right? Until it's good. How do we become good? Until we're fully refined and purified, right? And not only that, whenever we're refined and purified is whenever God has shined so much light. He made us go through so many trials and tribulations that our heart is finally in a good place, just like Jesus. We finally took all the disgusting things off of our heart, right? All the things we couldn't let go, our desires, all of the things that we couldn't let go, right? Everything, all the disgusting part of it, we finally got into a whole piece, and the only one who was able to become that here on earth is Jesus. And we finally start looking like Jesus. And when we finally fully look like Jesus, God knows that it's refined and purified. He's not done until we actually look like him. And I mean, even the Bible describes like we're made in the image of him. But with the world's corruption, with the world's everything, we learn to open up windows for the enemy to come in. And as our own nature of just unrighteousness, we learn to corrupt things, right? We this is just my belief, just the education system of most countries, right? Especially the U.S. Not only that, but any system, the political system, how it is, and I believe that as man, we learn to create our own desires and listen to the voices of the enemy instead of the voices of what our founding father has built this country off of, right? And I think that's very important to understand because I believe 100% that God is raising up leaders. He's raising up leaders in this generation, and he's actually calling so many of you and many of your friends and many of your family, right? He's calling you, and most of them are answering the call. And I love to see that because this is the time in the season of healing to be equipped. And I just thought I wanted to bring that to you because you might be going through something. And I want to let you know that God is not done with you. God is not done with you. You may have fallen, but God is not done with you, right? God is still there. And he's right outside of the door. Left him too, right? He's a gentleman. He's not going to open the door until you invite him in. So I ask if you maybe you have felt like God has left you. Maybe you felt like God, you're not worthy of it. I want to let you know that stop listening to that lie that the enemy has fed you, that you're not worthy. You are worthy. He already purchased you. It is finished, right? And he's not done with you until you look like him. Right? And I think that's why it's so important that even the Bible calls us to die to ourselves. Because if we continue to feed into ourselves, we become to look like the enemy, right? We become to idol many things. We become to want be prideful and want to receive so much glory that is not even ours, it's God's. God should receive the glory, right? There's so much to unpack there, and I don't want to make this a 30-minute live for most of y'all. I know it's midnight. So I do want to do another part on just being able to learn more about that and kind of even y'all, whoever are watching, definitely give me some comments, give me some questions to be able to see if this is more of what y'all kind of want to hear. But definitely I want to do a part to dive deeper into what it means to actually walk that out in that journey. So guys, it was amazing to be able to be here on this live. Tune in to our monthly podcast, and I'll be on here next week. So love y'all. See y'all next week.